I just go whenever?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. My name's Jen, and our group did teamwork. So, since our group did teamwork, I thought first I would introduce my team. I'm Jen. It's literally not going. Oh. Okay, so these are all my teammates. The one with the beard, that's Dylan. He'll be talking to you about forming. The one with the blonde hair, that's Drew. He'll be talking to you about storming. Kira will be talking to you about norming. Bobby Waller will be talking to you about performing, and Jenny will be talking about adjourning. So teamwork is critical to achieving a common goal. It brings together a group of people, and they all work towards some end. And then it blends together different types of people. So it brings together different backgrounds, different knowledge, people's different knowledge, their skills, abilities, their ideas, and it combines them to work towards that common goal. So there's a couple different types of teamwork models. The first one, we're going to talk about the Tuckman model, but the first one, I'll introduce some other ones too. So the first one is Meredith Belbin. She focuses on the team roles rather than the stages of forming a team. And she says that each team member nominates themselves to be in a certain role. And with that, that's how they create success. And then Susan Whelan actually came after the Tuckman model. She based her model off of Tuckman's model, and she says that groups simply achieve maturity through working together, and there's a correlation between the time spent together and how well they work together. And then there's Tuckman's model, and like Professor Casper said, it was first started with 4 stages, and that's because the 4 stages directly relate to the common goal. So there's forming, storming, norming, and performing, and then later, with the help of Susan Whelan, they added adjourning. And adjourning isn't relevant. It's relevant to the people and relevant to their well-being, but it's not directly related to the common goal that the team is working towards. So not all teams reach an adjourning because there can be a permanent team. Okay, so I'll just go through briefly each stage, and then they're going to talk in detail more about each one. So forming is when everyone meets, everyone in the team gets together. They look for their common goal. They kind of establish that. And a lot of times people are anxious. There's a lot of positivity going on. Nothing really has happened yet. There's not a lot of clear roles. So this is our field hockey team. This is my first day of practice ever here. And we had all just met. We had just started to introduce ourselves. We just ran. And so, and then after forming comes storming, and that's where boundaries are pushed, conflict arises, and it's just conflict that arises from people's natural working habits because it's a diverse group of people that come together, so their different personalities and everything clash together. And in relation to my team, I didn't have any pictures, but we lost a lot while I was here, so that would be a lot of storming. And we also had a lot of conflict with my first year here. We didn't have any captains, so we had conflict with that, with who was in what roles and whatnot. After storming comes norming, and that's when people in the team start to socialize. They start to bond with each other. They resolve their differences from the storming, and they ask each other for help to work towards the common goal. So for my field hockey team, this summer we traveled to Bermuda, which is where we started to bond a lot together, and we like I said, we had our storming my first 2 years here, and then this is now our norm. We in the summer we were in our norming stage because we all started to get along and started to work. Realized that we all had the same goal in mind, whether we wanted to believe it or not. And then after norming is performing, that's when people start really getting hard at work, and there's no more friction. They're all working towards that common goal. Um, yeah. Okay, so this is us in Bermuda. We had just like won all 3 of our games. And right now, our season, we're technically in the performing stage of our model because we are doing really well right now. So, yeah. Uh, and then adjourning. So, technically, our team hasn't reached the adjourning stage yet because our season's still going on. But ideally, what we would want to happen is to win championship, or even if we don't win a championship, there's still going to be an adjourning because Jenny and I and the other seniors won't be part of the team, so the team will have to rebuild. So adjourning is because teams only exist for a period of time; they disband after a while. Just adjourning is also called mourning, so it can bring happiness whether when you reach a common goal, but it can also bring some mourning and uncertainty when you don't know what's going to happen in the future. So my team, went through each stage, and just like the graph showed before, yeah, we're spelling out RUFH. Just like the graph showed before, we had some ups and downs, and then now we're really in the peak of that performing stage, which will eventually lead to the adjourning stage. And Dylan will explain the first stage of the Tuckman model, which is forming, and he'll go into more detail about that.
All right, well, thank you, Jen, for introducing us. And quick show of hands, how many of you have heard of the Tuckman model? All right.
I'm hoping everybody.
Actually, pretty much everybody. Today I'll be focusing on forming. This model was created by Bruce Tuckman, 1965. And yeah, forming is the first of 5 stages as we went over. There's forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. To me, the most important is forming. Any successful team in the history of team building had to start somewhere, and they started at the forming stage. Um, this forming stage, it's where members are first introduced to each other. You begin to learn about your teammates and your coworkers. You'll learn their strengths, their weaknesses, their passions, their goals, aspirations, personality, work ethic, anything really, just to learn about each other and to get to know each other. Also here in the forming stage, everyone's trying to find their own role. Some people will take more initiative and take on some more responsibility, and that'll put them in more of a leadership type role. Some other members are going to slack off a little bit, and they will let the more dedicated workers get more of the work done. And an important thing to know in the forming stage is there's always a divide of some sort within the team. Some initial feelings here in the forming stage are excitement for being a part of something new, some anticipation for what's to come next, some pride in being a part of something that's bigger than yourself, and even some anxiousness about not knowing what your specific roles, duties, and responsibilities will be. Later here in the forming stage, um, roles will be assigned, duties will be discussed, responsibilities will be discussed. Some leaders will be appointed, some secondary leaders, second in command guys will be appointed, and then you'll have your data collectors and specialists where they'll really focus on one specific task, one specific job, and they'll do that job to a T and get that done for you. Another thing to know here in the forming stage, efficiency is not always going to be where you want it to be. It's a brand new team, a lot of new faces, everyone's getting to know each other. So you're going to have some slackers, you're going to have some people that aren't certain about their roles, and the efficiency is just not going to be as high as it will be in some of the later stages. a lot of people don't know what's really being sought, like what you're trying to do here in the forming stage. And the main thing you're trying to do is find a common goal, find a common purpose that everyone can kind of pull in the same direction. Like I have a tug of war team here. Unfortunately, though, in the forming stage, finding that common goal and purpose is very hard to find. You'll very rarely find a team that's already know what they're doing in the forming stage. Personal story that I can easily relate to forming would be specifically my freshman year playing baseball here at Rowan. I knew about team development and I knew there were stages coming in. I didn't really know how long it would take, if it would be a season or a few seasons. So my freshman year was my head coach's second year here at the program. So about half of the team consisted of members that were under the prior coach. There were about a quarter of the team were transfers that our new coach recruited to come and play, and then the last quarter were freshmen like myself. And this is a new situation. It's a brand new team. There's a lot of new faces. It's only our head coach's second year, so this is definitely the forming stage of a team. And every year there's about 50 plus people that you have to get to know, and you'll again learn their strengths and weaknesses. And it's kind of tough to do at first. However, you'll start when practices start. It becomes easier. You'll learn strengths and weaknesses, teammates' aspirations, goals, personalities, and you'll even learn to see if you can make friends with these people, because you're not always going to be at practice, always going to be at games. It's nice to have some friends that you can hang out with outside of practice and outside of games. Also, in the forming stage, you'll have a lot of people question their roles after a few weeks in of practicing. There's been a fair amount of time to kind of judge where you're at, where the internal competition is for starting spots. You'll have some members of the team try and work harder to find a role for themselves, and then you'll have other members kind of slack off and have a role choose them. And the ones that took that initial initiative and responsibility, they'll tend to become your captains. And the captains, they will lead you on and off the field. They will guide you on and off the field, and they'll be your main source of information for game times, practice times. Whenever the bus is leaving, just any kind of general information about the team. And like I said, in the forming stage, there's always a divide. In our case, it was all the different types of players. There were the returning players from the other coach. There were the transfers that came in, and then there were the freshmen. There were numerous fights and altercations. Most of them resulted in suspensions, and some players even got asked to leave the team. This divide gave the captain an opportunity to call a players-only meeting where he actually assigned specific roles and responsibilities. And it was kind of the first time where, as a team, we felt like we belonged. We were finally heading towards one common goal, and it was that players-only meeting that allowed us to do that. However, sometimes these roles just don't work for whatever the reason may be. Some members won't accept their roles. They'll think they're better than whatever role they're given. Other members, sometimes are given the wrong role. Sometimes a starter is given a starting role when he's better suited to come off the bench and help the team in that way. But this is where you can see that common goal and purpose are still very blurry and rarely found in the forming stage. So how did we do? We ended up doing all right. We went 24-18. What held us back was that divide in our team. We had all the different players. The returning players just wanted to win. The transfers just really wanted to have fun, and the freshmen just kind of observed and did what they thought was right or acceptable. My sophomore year, we were more of a storming team. We went 29-18. There was less drama, less distractions, less newness. There was more familiarity. We knew everyone there. We knew mostly all the faces. However, there were still people trying to take on roles that were already filled. My junior year, more of a norming team. We went 35-11. We went further in the postseason. We finally all began to pull in one direction. My senior year, we look to be a performing team. This is the best team we've had yet. Our goal is to win a national championship, which will allow us to reach that adjoining phase where we can kind of disengage, separate, celebrate our overall team success. And that's all I have. I want to thank you, and we got Drew coming next for storming.
Yeah. Drew, can you pause that?
I don't know how to pause it.
I don't know.
I'm talking about storming.
Hit escape.
Escape means to pause it.
All right. So you're the first group. So we're going to move forward a little bit. So Drew, you're next. I don't want anybody behind this, okay? Now, you will have other professors along your life, and it will sometimes be appropriate to be here. But what we're doing is bringing you out onto the X's, okay? I want you to start way over here. That way, when you go back over here, it'll be less. Try to use some eye contact. You ready?
I'm ready.
I didn't scare you.
Now I'm ready to go.
Okay, let's go. Good job, by the way, guys.
All right, so I was going to start behind there, but not anymore. So thank you, Dylan, for going through forming. It transitions into storming very nicely as it is the second step. My name is Drew, and I'm going to tell you guys all the ins and outs about storming. So he thinks that forming is the most important part. I think that storming is, for a few reasons that I'll get into soon. When the slide changes, we'll go ahead and get after that. All right, so a little bit of recap about forming. So forming is where you probably haven't had games yet. You're starting to get to know each other. You the only common interest that you have is that you play the same sport. You're not friends yet. You don't have a common goal yet. And forming, it's really where you're just playing together and starting to get to know each other, but you haven't played games yet. Kind of like fall ball for us. So storming, the big thing is that you have to commit to a common goal. And to commit to a common goal, you have to get past just having a common interest over sports. For example, in the football picture, the only thing they had in common was that they played football together. They're not friends. They don't really care about each other. Another thing about forming is that your roles are, like, you're a captain, you're a bench player, you're a starter, and these roles are going to clash when you're storming. So for the storming process is when you really start to have problems. And I think a great picture here is you have your boundaries set, and you're going to have problems. You're going to break through the boundaries, and you have to become teammates and commit to a common goal. That's the big thing about storming. Another thing that we talk about in the baseball team, we have these guys we call them me guys. So these me guys, if you're a freshman coming in, it's tough. You don't know anybody. You don't know anything about practice. You don't know what to wear. You don't have any shirts. You don't have any hats. So a me guy would be someone, you're an upperclassman, and you say, I'm not going to take a freshman to practice. I'm not going to tell them what to do, how to act. You're just not going to help out. You're a me guy. You're selfish. So a little bit about the storming phase and a way to explain it a little better. I have a story from my life. I call it the buy-in phase story, and I think it ties into storming very well. So I played baseball at Clearview High School. It's local. It's like 10 minutes from here. And going into my senior year, we were ranked number 1 in preseason. We had 9 kids coming to play college sports. So we were going to be good. We were going to be good. But the big thing was we had a new coach coming in, who's this guy, Coach Rowe, right here. He's currently the head coach. When I was a senior, he was an assistant coach. And his goal was to bring us together instead of just being individually talented, bring us together and help us commit to that goal and get a ring, essentially. So when I say we're a team of individuals, we have some talented guys, a couple of guys going to St. John's, one kid got drafted, a couple of guys going to Wagner. A lot of guys, they're working out on their own, they have their own trainers, they have their own programs, but we're not working out together. So they're still in the forming stage. We're not engaging with each other is a big thing there. So what he did to get us to the storming phase and work out together was he found this facility for us. It's just like this: warehouse, gravel lot, weights inside, turf on the ground, and we had this fitness test we had to pass. If we didn't pass the fitness test, then you're gonna be cut from the team. And obviously, if you want to be in a team that's gonna get a ring, you want to be in the team. You don't want to get cut the year that you get a ring. So what we did, the fitness test, it was an Indian run. I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but we had to run 2.5 miles, and the guy in front had to hold a tire over their head. You can't drop your elbows to here. You had to be up the whole time. And it was about probably 400 yards, and you passed the next person. So we did that for 2.5 miles. Some guys are in pretty good shape. Oh, another side point. If you guys saw the gravel lot in the snow, we ran on the gravel lot in the snow. So it's pretty hard, I thought. But so naturally, the players that couldn't finish the test, they were ostracized. The guys that did finish the test, they're mad. They're like, you got to pass the test. You can make the team. We can win. We can get a ring. And we're starting to have team dissension. The storming's starting to start. The guys are arguing. We're starting to say bad things about the coach, say bad things about the workouts. And guys even wanted to quit. We had kids. I was guilty of it. I was the captain, and I yelled at some of the kids. I was like, why are you even here if you're not gonna try? and they're saying, I might not. You're right, I might not play. I might quit, which is I regret that greatly. I felt bad about that. But it's okay. So he heard about this, that we had this team dissension, and he talked to the foreman of the conditioning, and he said, listen, I'm not going to change anything. You guys are going to pass the test, or we're not going to have a team this year. So he said these exact words. He said, listen, you guys are going to buy in or don't play. And this picture, trust the process, I think represents greatly because he did say trust the process in his phrase, and we all like the Sixers here. So we're about 2 weeks in. We had 3 weeks to pass this test. We're 2 weeks in, and naturally, when you work out, you get into better shape. And we're starting to get into better shape. The guys that are in the front are starting to go back and push the guys in the back, and we're starting to unite a little bit. And the guys in the front that are finishing first, they went to the end, and instead of saying negative things, they're saying, "Come on, you can do it." Just little things like that. So now we're at the last week. We all have to pass the test. We all passed it fine, but we're all actually looking forward to this day. It's pretty cool. We're all looking forward to this last conditioning because it wasn't that we were just teammates trying to play baseball and win. We liked each other. After conditioning, we all had a thing where we go to Chipotle or Moe's and we all hang out. We actually liked each other. And we're just a baseball team. We're all friends. So we get to the season. We were ranked number 1 in preseason. We had all these different articles about us, about who's going where, and all these cool. One guy was a All-American. All these different preseason awards are pretty cool. We get to the season and we did exactly that. We dominated teams and we won our first ever school Group 4 title, which is a bigger deal than it seems because we got more funding for that. We got a new field. We got, instead of our best players leaving, now players want to come to Clearview and they want to transfer to Clearview. So it changed the history of the program. This is a picture of my buddy Kenny. So Kenny was drafted out of high school to the Rangers, and he's a perfect example because he was a big part of our success. He won a lot of games for us. He pitched in the final game, but he's just a pitcher. He can't pitch every game. And it was why I think that Storm was the most important part because we had to come together. It wasn't all about Kenny. It wasn't all about the guys going to St. John's, guys going to Wagner. Everyone had to do their part so we could win, get a ring. It's going to sound kind of corny, but this storming process, it definitely changed my life. I still have a bond with guys on the team. That guy Kenny that I was with, I hung out with him a week ago. I talked to the coach a couple of days ago about a job with baseball, so I still stay in touch with them. Just to recap, there's no shortcuts. You're gonna have problems. So you're gonna have team dissension. You guys are going to have. You're gonna argue with each other. And you got to get through it if you want to have success. So it's kind of funny to do a little Mario Kart shortcut to lighten up. So that concludes my segment. I'm gonna turn it over to Kirsten now, who's gonna present forming or norming. Sorry, Dylan did forming.
Okay, so my name is Kirsten, and I'm going to do norming, like Drew had just said. Norming is step 3 of the Tuckman model. It's an important part of the model. It's when everyone is coming together, and I'll explain it all to you in just a second. Yeah, I think it's. Okay, so anyways, like I just said, norming is stage 3. During the norming stage is when everyone is really coming together. You're going to start to be comfortable with everyone and start to kind of commingle more than you were before. You guys are going to have opinions that are going to match with each other and all realize that you have the same common goal that you're coming for. So strengths and weaknesses. During this stage, you're going to realize the strengths and weaknesses of everyone that you're working with. People that have weaknesses, you're kind of going to leave them away from that stuff. People that have strengths, you're going to give them more work in that kind of area. Because you want everyone to succeed. You want the team to work well together in the best way that they can. So it's a stage of comfort, like I had said. So this is where everyone's starting to be comfortable with each other. They're trusting each other. As I said before, they know what everyone can do the best. So this is kind of where you're going to start to believe in everyone, and your work is going to come together in the best way. So questions. Because of being comfortable, you're going to start being able to ask people questions. So maybe like your higher ups that you were uncomfortable with before, you're going to start being more comfortable with them. You're going to start asking questions as to what you can do better, questions as to what kind of work you can do or what you can do to make things better for the team. Team status meetings. So you're going to start to come together more too to have meetings. Because you're so comfortable talking to everyone, you can have the meetings to kind of like lay out what the framework is going to be of what you guys are doing, everything that's going to lead up to the end goal that you're trying to do. Everyone's much more together than in storming. It's kind of like a bring together of everything. So let's do this. I put that there because this is when everyone is gonna kind of, since you're commingling the best, you're gonna, everyone's gonna advance towards what the end goal is. Like I said before, it's much more co-communication and the importance of norming. Norming is so important because if you don't come to the comfortableness with each other, everyone's going to kind of keep in the storming phase and you're not all really going to get along. So you need to be comfortable with everyone to be able to work towards the same goal. Even if you have differences, you kind of need to come together in norming. So this is my real life story. Everyone's athletes, but I'm not in college. So I used my internship that I had over the summer. I worked for a firm called Mazars USA. They're an audit firm. I'm in accounting, so that's why I worked for them. So so at Mazars, since I was the intern, I put it as being the low man on the totem pole. When I first went there, this was kind of the forming of the team. I mean, not really so yet. I was a new person, so I didn't really know anyone in the department. I wanted to become part of the team. I wanted to work with consulting rather than audit. So I kind of went in and I spoke to the manager of the consulting team, and he kind of brought me in to meet everyone, getting things done. So he let me try to become part of the team. He said he would give me some work to do and see how I had done and how I interacted with everyone. So I just made sure I got all of my work done. I asked questions. I made sure that I was doing everything correctly so everyone wouldn't have to go back through. And I was adapting to the team. It's obviously an awkward situation when you're at first like an intern with someone because you don't understand how they work together and what their process of everything is. So as long as you're learning through that, you're going to adapt to the team and you're kind of going to feel like you're becoming a part of the team, which is a big part of norming. Comfort and trust, as I had said before, this is really like the biggest part of norming. When I was doing all of my work and I was getting comfortable with these people, I was able to go and talk to people, even though I felt like I was young and I didn't have much experience. I felt comfortable getting advice from these people because I knew that it was helping me to do my future job in the best way that I could. Team meeting. So after a few weeks of doing all of this work, we had a team meeting. I went in with the whole consulting group, and the manager that I had previously talked to had told me that he thought I was doing great work and he liked that I asked so many questions and that I was interested in really what they were doing. So he invited me to go on my first traveling audit. I went to Long Island, New York, and I stayed there with them for 4 days. I went on this audit with them, and I did like a lot of internal procedure testings and interviewing and all of that kind of stuff. So it was nice that they had that comfort and that trust in me to do things that we could get in a lot of trouble for if I had done wrong. So thumbs up for the team. It was a great opportunity that they had let me do all of this stuff. I felt that norming was a good norming was good here because I had become part of the team and it felt good. So that's kind of like the end goal was to become part of the team. A job well done. So everything had gone well with working with them. Because I had felt part of the team, they invited me to go on more audits with them over the summer, and things went very well. So basically, I guess that would be my end goal. Adjoining would be them accepting me and wanting me to become part of their firm because that is my end goal in life. So norming goes into performing because if you don't have good comfort and trust in your team, then you can not have good performance. But if you do have good comfort and trust in your team, then you'll have good performance. You obviously want to have good performance with the team because if not, you're lacking in your norming and everything else that builds up to that performance. So just to recap on that, I feel like I said it a lot, but norming is a big step in trust and comfortability with the team. Without norming and without that step, your team could definitely struggle because you need that trust in a team to build up and be able to meet those end goals that you had all wanted to. You all have the same end goal, and that's what you kind of need to focus on and realize. So next we're gonna have Bobby, and he's gonna do performing.
All right, what's up, guys? I'm Bobby. I'm here to talk about performing. So performing, I'm really going to use my kind of example of my life. I was in high school, my junior and senior year. I went to 2 state championships in football. So kind of really showing that performing is really when everything comes together and getting that end result of winning. That's why everybody usually wants to win. So the first kind of introduction to performing is when coming together as a group and functioning to the best of their ability. So you're using all the stages previously explained by Dylan, Drew, and Kirsten, and you're able to kind of trust your team and accept the group norms and feel comfortable around one another to really, as I said, get that end result that you're looking for. So the next kind of thing you really want to focus on, there's no like task or relationship issues. Those are all handled before, in the storming stage. You don't want to have to say that, oh, my friend stole my cookie at lunch, so I'm not going to do, really bad job on our project. Like that shouldn't be any kind of affection, in the performing stage. Your teams will focus more on leadership activities versus supervisory activities. So you're really developing leaders during the performing stage. You're going to see who's able to perform the best and, take on those leadership roles depending on the variety of tasks that come about. Your energy levels are really high. You want to bring that energy to every game, every project, no matter what you do in your life. You don't want to have to be, lollygagging in the back or giving low energy to your team. So the big question is, how do teams perform? What are those details that go into making sure that your teams perform to the best of their ability? So the first thing you want to focus on is your strengths, right? So each person, whether it's the small being the water boy or being the captain of the team, you want to bring your strength every day that you come to perform. Team members must use those relationships and demonstrate the effectiveness and efficiency by coming together and showing your strengths and recognizing those strengths among your teammates as well as your own. The next part is leadership. So you have to have an established team leader that's able to delegate all of your tasks and monitor obviously the performance as it goes on throughout your performance. Is also the team leader is also responsible for properly communicating the task requirements and obviously making sure that everybody's doing their part, and it allows the team to really kind of develop a trust for one another. So as I said, you're looking for that end result. So my personal example, we made the end result twice. My junior year, I didn't really play that big of a role. I was kind of more like a scouting team member. My senior year, I was a starter, and being able to be a part of it again, and obviously being it for firsthand, you're looking for that end result of trying to win. A big part of performing is you want to be able to challenge your team members, right? So you don't want to have to be stuck with one spot, saying I'm just this good. You want to rely on yourself to challenge yourself, but also challenge your other teammates to get better every day. And as I said, that builds team trust even more, and it strengthens in every aspect of your team. So the next part that I feel like goes without saying is encouragement. So we have the most simplest one you can think of here, and you're really relying on your teammates to be uplifting. You don't want to have show any signs of weakness. Obviously, it comes up plenty of times. There have been team members that I've dealt with that have a really hard time to get back into the groove, but that's what you rely on your teammates for. So one of the biggest steps after your performance, is always you're evaluating your performance. After every game, we would have to watch film and watch, myself or any of our other teammates around us play and make sure that, we're each bringing the best of our ability to each game every day. So the first step in evaluation is making sure those processes are set in place. So you want to make sure, it's easy to make decisions. You're not, second guessing yourself. The decision that you're supposed to make right then and there. This includes sharing leadership. So, you're delegating tasks. It shouldn't be just the leader. If I'm on defense and, the other captain of the team is on offense, I should be able to rely on myself to bring up, uplift my defensive teammates as well as, getting the offense to do what they need to do as well. You're looking for team trust, as it's been reiterated throughout this whole thing. You have to trust your teammates in order to perform for anybody. Team members also handle decisions without supervision. So, as I said, the leader might not be there. Let's say the coach isn't there that day for your team. You should be able to take the task that you know you have to do every day to perform to the best of your ability. So, leadership is flexible and may change, as I said, between teammates depending on the task. So, I might be better at one thing than my other teammate might be. So, you have to be able to kind of recognize their strengths and recognize their comfort levels to be able to continue to move forward. So, the individuals, their roles are clearly identified in your team. So you're able to point out, okay, my teammate does this, I can focus on this. That way you're not coinciding with each other or worrying about, oh, what does my teammate have to do? You really should be focusing on what yourself has to do. So your team member is also able to overcome obstacles with each other without that task relationship conflict that I said before. You don't want to have that any part of what you're trying to do or to accomplish when you're performing. They're able to make changes to procedures if necessary. So, I've had plenty of instances where we've been running certain plays or, things that didn't end up working out correctly. But having your ability to recognize your team role, you're able to make changes, quickly and efficiently to, as I said, get that end result you're looking for. You have to share a vision and work towards that end goal. And as I say, keep that high energy level because, as I said, if you're not able to bring that every day, whether to practice, whether to games, whether to your group work and anything you do in life, you're not going to be able to, get that end result that you're looking for. Team leaders are able to develop, new members. So, as I said, we had a lot of young guys that were freshmen my senior year. It was a definitely different role for me to be able to teach guys and make sure that they're bringing their all every day and using that enthusiasm and energy and, communicating that vision and ideas to all my teammates. So the next thing is, as I said, as I've reiterated this whole time, you're looking for that end result. That's what performing is all about. So you're using that end result, whether it's times of I've lost and you learn from your failures, or you continue to succeed and improve and continue to improve as you go throughout performing. Your team members are satisfied and motivated. That's the biggest thing with results, is that you continue to motivate yourself, whether it's say you fail or whether you succeed, and you continue to motivate yourself to do better and better each time. So next, I have the final stage, and we're going to talk about adjourning. So there we go.
And we're gonna pause real quick. Thank you.
I'm so nervous.
This is called icing the kicker.
I don't know how this is called.
No, you're good.
Okay.
All right. I was noticing the last couple of you guys were just really, you didn't have rhythm. You were just back up. And I thought, why aren't they looking at the reflection in the glass? I don't know. Sorry, somehow. The glass.
We should get extra credit points.
I
for
wouldn't
that.
even think of that.
Well, when you're up there, you can't but help but notice it.
Oh, okay. That's probably key. See the slide switch.
Gotta like your best. Go, Jenny.
Go ahead, take it away.
Okay, so I just. What button?
From current slide.
This guy?
Yep.
Okay. What? All right, so I'm Jenny. I'm gonna be wrapping this all up, making this whole concept come full circle for you guys. And yeah, I'm just waiting for that to go. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the fifth and final stage of the team development model for Tuckman, and that's the adjourning stage. And that is basically where the team's work is beginning to wrap up, starting to conclude, and the team itself ultimately dissolves, and there is going to not be a team anymore. So there are two scenarios that can happen. So you can fulfill your task, and you guys got a job well done. You win your national titles. Everything goes fine and you're happy, but then there's also the chance that you can not have a task be completed. So that will lead to other emotions. That is also very important to know what we're talking about adjourning, because that does involve a lot of emotions. So there are two types of groups. There are some permanent groups, and these groups might actually not get to visit the adjourning stage.
Aaron and Grant and Pete, they tattooed each other.
So these groups might not actually get to come to the full circle with the adjoining stage, since their group will not dissolve. the task will be completed or incompleted, but the group itself is ultimately going to core is going to be the same. And temporary groups are usually going to be able to visit this stage. So a good example of that would be like right now, our group, we are going to present. Once we're done presenting, we're probably not going to talk about this, revisit this, but we're going to celebrate and yes. So the adjoining stage, like Jen had mentioned, was added on to the Tuckman model. So it was initially not a part of it, and then it was, and I actually was with the help of his colleague, Marianne Jensen, is what I had learned. And yeah, and that was in like the 1970s. So adjoining is not like the other stages. It kind of deviates from the goal, the focus of the group, and starts to focus on other things. So it's not task oriented as the other ones are, like forming, storming, norming, performing. It's more people oriented, and it goes beyond the purpose of the task, the group at like the task at hand, and starts to focus on the people and realizing that they have they're people and they have emotions, and that really gets involved into the adjoining stage. And yeah, like I said, the emotional aspect. It's also referred to as the mourning stage. I know you guys probably have heard about that, and this represents the vulnerabilities that people have. So the fact that we have emotions and feelings, and we are going to be upset, like kind of like in a breakup where, oh, we're leaving each other now, never going to see you again. Oh, I'm sad now. So I can relate to this stage in two areas of my life. So I play field hockey here at Rowan, so I'm going to talk about that. And I also was a part of an internship this summer, and I'm going to talk about that for you guys. Oh my goodness. I'm so I know you guys don't even care. I'm just like freaking out. Okay, so with field hockey, like many other like team programs, the relationships and the roles come and go. They're exchanged throughout like the members of the team, and so we had. I'm going to actually want to talk about like our last season. We come off of an 8-game win streak, and then we went to the semifinals and played TCNJ. They ultimately came out victorious, and they had beat us. So the adjoining stage happened right at that very moment. The moment they beat us, the team, our work was done. We didn't have any more games to play, and it was really upsetting. And we all got together. We all cried a little bit. It was really upsetting. But that's when we come to the honoring and the recognizing of everybody's purpose in the team. And we were honored for our accomplishments as a team and individually. We also got to say our goodbyes to the seniors. And then we also were able to discuss our future for the program and what was to come for us. And so adjoining could also be known as mourning and also transforming. So since our season didn't end the way we wanted it to, we were able to like regroup and figure out ways to transform like our habits and what we had done. So maybe we were going to add some new players, leave some old habits behind, and yeah. So then I was also I had an internship at EisnerAmper, which is a public accounting firm. This was a brand new experience for me, so it was really cool to be a part of it. And it lasted about 2 months, and it was comprised of about 12 interns that were in the audit field, tax field, and the consulting field. Even though we weren't all working together on the same projects, we all had the same goal in mind. We all wanted to eventually potentially get an offer for the firm. And we actually did get to work on a mock audit together and prepare a final presentation. So we all came together, helped each other with this mock audit to look good for our superiors. And once we had given our final presentation, we had all actually went out to a nice lunch, and which is actually facilitated by our HR department. They thanked us for our work that we had done that summer, and we were now able to move on to new experiences, and we had the potential to work together again and coming back together. So let's recap. Can anybody tell me anything that they remembered about the forming stage? Anybody? Well, the forming stage is when you get to know each other, and there's typically going to be a divide in the group. So you're just meeting each other, trying to see like what's going on, who's who, and yeah, that's the forming. And then storming. So the storming stage is when conflict usually presents itself and people aren't really settled, like, or satisfied with their roles, and they're trying to figure it out, like what's going to go on, who's going to have what role, and yep. And then that's going to lead to the norming stage where everyone's going to be comfortable in their roles, they're going to understand their roles, and they're going to look to people for their strengths and stay away if they have like those weaknesses. It's easier for everybody to recognize and be comfortable with what everybody has the potential to do and what they can't do. And then that's going to help us move on to the performing stage. And that's when everybody is at their peak. There's minimal leadership that's required, like the captain or the leader or the person in charge isn't really there to facilitate that much. They're there to just kind of guide the way for the people who are performing and doing everything up to par. And yeah, this was so nerve-wracking for me. And then the adjourning stage, which is actually going to happen after like the next 2 slides. For our group, we're going to be done and everything is going to, like I talked about for the past 20 slides. And yeah, that's really pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions about the Tuckman model at all? No? That was terrible. We have to turn this thing off. Yeah.
And you know your mom asked you to report back on how you did
I did
tonight.
terribly. No, I'm sweating.
All right. Excellent job. Please sit down. Let me, oh, you didn't remind me to turn my video off, but you were fixing to, weren't you? Okay. Hit this.